There has been a trend in the recent years to move away from some of these workouts, some of these private workouts, some of the combine workouts, quarterbacks that don't throw, people only run 140, or they only do their private workout, up to the point now where we're talking about players who potentially in the near future could completely boycott the combine. Tell me your thoughts, first off, on what is valuable from something like the combine, what teams can get and why we should still do that, and then maybe how you balance watching game film and then watching some of these different intangibles from these individual workouts.
Yeah, I don't think the players will ever fully boycott the athletic workouts because it's going to help a lot of them. Or if they don't do it, it's going to introduce questions into their profile that they're not going to like, going to make them follow it. There are certain players that could always do it, and will certainly keep doing it, where the adding to their they could only hurt themselves by submitting their, like, for instance, Evan Neal didn't test at the combine, and everyone already knows that he's an awesome athlete. So he probably just thought, man, if I get a bad start or whatever on the 40, and then that caused my stock to drop, that's stupid. So I ain't going to do this. But the importance about the athletic drills, it's not the only important thing is game film, or it's not, the only important thing is like the athletic composite. It's just, you go into this is the way I do it. You go into the class, you've seen all these kids for, like I said, 3 to 5 years, and you're going to have, there's very few guys that come in that you don't have any questions about their whatever, their evaluation or whatever. So like, I'll just give one specific example from this year. Treylon Burks, he comes in, he's projected, to go anywhere from 8 to 14 sort of a range coming into the combine. But his profile was like, he's raw in that at Arkansas, instead of just like being like, we're going to teach you to be a wide receiver one, you're going to play on the outside, here's the route tree that you're going to run, we just want you to focus on these specific 7 or 8 sort of routes, and then how you break press coverage on the outside, etc. We're going to work on your footwork. Instead of that, it was sort of like more like the Laviska Shenault, at Colorado, or Rondale Moore at Purdue, where because he was by far the best offensive player on his team, they were just forcing him touches everywhere. So he'd play a little bit on the outside, play a little bit in the slot, play even some on the inline, play out of the backfield, and then you're just manufacturing ways to give him touches. A lot of these things were just like extended handoffs and stuff like that, as opposed, again, to having all these reps running, what you're going to be doing in the NFL, presumably playing outside receiver. And so because of that, there was some questions about the eval. But what you assumed, and the way that you were filling some of those questions in advance, is this guy's going to test awesome, because we've seen him running away from Alabama defensive backs, in the one game long touchdown. We've seen him, have better footwork than guys that were like 30 pounds less than him. And so, like, again, that's what you were assuming. Well, he comes in and tests way worse than that. He was more like an average sort of percentile historically. And because of that, instead of the baked in thing that we were assuming about the profile, that we could, sort of not explain away some of the rawness, but where you could project some of the things that that he's raw in for him to jump up, you couldn't do that as cleanly with what his athletic profile had become. So naturally, you're going to fall from what the assumption was to what the reality is. That's where the athletic testing comes into play with some of these kids, or some of the kids that are off the radar that jump up. The other important thing about it is just figuring out, there's a certain threshold. If you test below that athletically, you're not going to make it in the NFL. You can look at thousands of people that have tested in the bottom 10 percentile, and basically none of them have succeeded. Pat Elflein's like, but I did for 1 year. But it's just, your odds of making it are just so much longer because of that. And so those are the things that the testing is important for. But there's some players where it's not important, either because the athleticism was not a thing for them, or it's not as big of a thing in their game, or you simply know what it is. For instance, I didn't need Lamar Jackson to run his 40, and I really don't need Malik Willis to do the athletic testing, but I want him to, because he's going to test as one of the 3 most athletic quarterbacks in NFL history. So crossing the fingers for the pro day, but he doesn't actually need to do that for me to have that opinion. He's just going to confirm it if he does.